Today's menu is another meal of wonderful pieces. Nathalie takes the mystery out of a home-baked smoked trout appetizer and follows with Nicoise potato salad, refreshing summer salad, and caramelized green onions and carrots. Gray's roast pepper onion bread makes a wonderful loaf. Grandmother Kreiser's Icebox cookies make a crisp cookie redolent of spices.
Hello, I'm Nathalie Dupree, and I have a lot of wonderful make-ahead things for you today, including Ray's roasted red pepper onion bread, or onion pepper bread. I've forgotten what I called it. But right now, everything has been sitting under these hot lights. Maybe I should write a recipe sometime for your breads. Instead of saying put in a warm place to double, I should say put under hot lights, because that happens to me a lot, but I don't think it would work in a book. Okay, first of all, this is yeast that has been dissolved and has now proofed. And it is at the point where probably it has no sugar left to eat. It's warm water and yeast and sugar, and it's been eating it, and it is really dissolved. It is really proofed. And probably I would add a pinch more sugar to that, just to, when I added my bread, just to be sure that there was enough in there for that yeast. But anyway, it's been dissolved in a cup of warm water. Right here, and then I have a bread that has been kneaded and doubled, and that's here. And I want you to see that this has got, if I put 2 fingers in it, go, that it doesn't come back. It has got to be knocked down. If you want to keep a bread, and I think I put this in too small of a bowl, you punch it down. If you want to keep a dough, let's say you don't have time to shape it right now, which I don't, I want to come back to it, then you knock it down. Now finally, giving up a sigh there. And put it in a warm place. What happened was we put it in too small of a plastic bag to rise, and then we put it in too small of a bowl to rise. Life was not perfect for this bread. But anytime you want to keep a bread, you can knock it down, put it in a plastic bag, or cover it, as we did with oiled plastic wrap. And you can even put it in the refrigerator. In other words, I could put that in the refrigerator now. But you can let it rise 2 or 3 times, and it will still develop this wonderful flavor. In fact, the longer and slower a bread rises, the more flavor it has. So I find when I have a really busy day, I prefer making a bread the traditional way, which is to shape the bread, let it knead it, let it double, then shape it, let it double again. But if I find that I don't have time to shape it, I knock it down, put it in the refrigerator, and leave it until I can come back for it. And it'll take longer for it to double and get it into the oven when it's cold, but it still works out better lots of times for me, because my life is not divided in such an orderly way that I can't use that extra time sometimes for something else. Now here it is once it has been shaped, and this is the point at which it goes into your oven. And you can see it right there. Now, what I really would like to do is to slash this bread and glaze it. And oop, I grabbed the wrong knife again. We forgot to glaze it and slice it last night. And then when it came out of the oven, we were all kind of tired, and we had ignored it. So here it was. So then late last night, Virginia, who's our crew chief, came to me and said, Nathalie, here's our bread, and it doesn't look very pretty because it wasn't glazed. So what can we do? And I said, well, let's just glaze it and put it back in the oven. Because it wasn't quite at 200 degrees, which is when a bread is really done. So she just glazed it and put it back in the oven. And I didn't really know for sure that you could do that with a baked bread, but you can. So if you forget your bread, you can fix it. Now, here's one way to slash it. Here's another way to slash it. And you can see that it is wanting to collapse. So at this point, it just has to go into the hot oven. And if it over-rises, you are still running a risk of having it collapse. Now, if a bread collapsed on you, what you could do is you could knock it all down, put it back into your food processor or your electric mixer, and then re-knead it with some more yeast. And look at that. See that? Oh, there, good. Did you see that collapse? Oh, I hope you did. You see it had eaten every last bit of sugar and it collapsed. So I'm glad that happened so you can see what I'm talking about. There's no more sugar for it to eat. It just, poor thing, just collapses. Now, I have sauteed ahead of time some sliced onions in hot butter until they were soft, 3 to 5 minutes. And I've chopped 2 roasted red bell peppers that I got from the jar. And I've dissolved 2 packages of yeast, you saw that, and 2 teaspoons of sugar in a cup of warm water that's about 105 to 115 degrees. And then I added, let's see, I should add, and of course I wouldn't add that now. What I would do, let's say that happened to me at home. I mean, I'm going to just divide it. Here's what you would normally add your yeast to. But let's say that happened to you at home and you'd say, well, what can I do? My poor yeast has given out. It has collapsed. Just go ahead, no big deal, and add some more sugar. Oh, I'm so happy you get to see that collapse because those are the things that happen to you. Whatever happens to me is going to happen to you. So here's some more sugar. And then you would add your salt and olive oil to your yeast once it was dissolved at that point. Okay? Now, off the heat, you would combine your bell peppers, your onions, 2 tablespoons of rosemary, and 2 teaspoons of cracked black pepper. And what else have you got in the house you want to add? You know, I mean, this is your bread. You get to flavor it the way you want to. Now, add your yeast, and obviously I wish that this was dissolved and proofed, but I'm going to go ahead now and add this here. You can see it foaming and bubbling. It's really trying to survive, and you can see how much it collapsed. So you wouldn't only add it if you added more yeast, but that's how you would save it. To your bread, to 4 cups of bread flour, and you mix it to a soft dough. And then when it's a nice soft dough, and you add your olive oil, I added it already to this yeast mixture, but you would add it to here. And you add your onion pepper mixture, and your chopped black olives. And I really would like this to be a nice soft dough, and I don't think I have a nice dough to show you. We had everything else to show you, but everything's been going here so fast. But you really would do this after your dough was made. And then you add more flour as you need it until it's smooth and elastic and just like a baby's bottom. I'm going to let that go and come back and show it to you in a little while. When that was done, you put it in an oil bag or bowl. It really does feel like a baby's bottom, and it bounces back when you touch it when it's doubled enough. Then you let it rise to doubled again. Let me just reiterate for you, anytime you have a crisis with your dough and it collapses on you, or you think it's not going to work, or you realize that you've left something out, here's my olives, you can always add it later if you make sure that all the ingredients that are in it are still working. Pretty noisy, isn't it? Okay, here's this. You see it makes a gracious quantity of the dough that you would need that about 10 minutes, but that's the way that it would be, and it's just full in there. I'm not going to try to fool with getting it out of there. You would knock it down and divide it into 2 pieces, and then you shape each one, I don't think I have time, into a nice long oblong, which you saw before. And if you need to add more dough, you do. You just take these and shape them into your nice long oblong. And put them on a baking sheet, an oiled baking sheet, sprinkled with cornmeal. This is a great bread to take to the ball game. Now this should be smoother, needed more, it just didn't have time, and that's when you double it again. It'll look like that, but this is only half of the bread mixture that's supposed to go on there. Then when you're ready to glaze it, which is here, you slash it, and I forgot to tell you about that glaze. You brush 1 egg beaten with 1 tablespoon of water and put it back in. Here's your brush, and that's going to make it pretty. You bake it at 375 degrees until it's golden brown. The bottom sounds hollow. When you tap it, you always cool bread on a rack, and it should be 200 degrees when you put a thermometer inside of it when it's still warm. very quickly. Caramelized green onions and carrots. Get some olive oil nice and hot and up and cooking, and then add some scallions and carrots and toss them until lightly golden. Now what I've done is I boiled some carrots for supper last night, and so what I did was boil twice as many carrots as I needed to, and I've got them about finger length, and then I saved half of them for tonight's supper so that I didn't have to do this twice. Now while they're cooking, you can go ahead and prepare your endive. You've got your carrots and your scallions in there, and I've got some garlic in there too. Add all that to the pan. And here is some endive. So I've got garlic in there, and I want to add some endive leaves. You add the endive and the garlic a little bit late because, of course, these are going to take a lot longer, and you don't want to burn your garlic. So go ahead and get these in there. Cooked lettuce. Who ever heard of such a thing? And cook it all until they're lightly brown. I promise you, you are going to find this a treat. Season it to taste with salt and pepper. Here's the way it looks. It's really love you.
Nathalie will be right back after this information.
We've been rafting down a river close to the Arctic Circle just to hear that sound, because here, as in other places in the world, the best fish in Finland are found in some of the most faraway places. Esko is going to show me how he smokes the fish right here on the Rodonjoki River in Finland, not too far from the Arctic Circle. He's just lightly salting it all over. He's salting the cavity on both sides and putting it on the rack that's going to go into the smoker. Now he's adding some shavings of the ash wood that's growing abundantly all around here, and some juniper sprigs. That ash has the most incredible smell, odor, lovely aroma that will really permeate the fish. And then the juniper, of course, will add to it as well, almost like a seasoning. But in fact, the only seasoning will be the salt. And then a little sugar on the bottom here. That'll caramelize and smoke up in the oven and give the fish a lovely smoky flavor as well as color, much like it adds to some of the cured hams that we have in Virginia. And now he's just going to go ahead and set it into the oven and close it very tightly. Esko and another local fisherman are going to go ahead and put the box, it's iron, onto the fire and leave it there to smoke, about half an hour. We're using rainbow trout caught right here, but it could be anything. It could be salmon or bluefish or any other wonderful fish. Sea trout would be good too. This could be served hot or cold since it's smoked. I myself am going to have it in the sauna today after a jacuzzi, because I'm in Finland and that's what you do here as a little picnic. But I want you to see how wonderful and moist it is right now. It's just fabulous. Thank you.
Cool.
For nearly a century, Nicoise's colorful French cookware has been a favorite in kitchens around the world. From its bold finishes and uncompromised quality to its easy-to-clean materials, the brand's range of iconic products are as easy to use as they are to love.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you this dough that has now been kneaded enough. And I want you to understand, when you have a dough with all these things in it, that you can't always tell when you've got enough flour in it, because you would think that that was sticky, because it feels sticky with all that oil and with the peppers in them. Go ahead and flour your hands and flour the outside surface of that dough. Oop, try not to get your package in it. And then I'm just going to touch it and see if it sticks, and it doesn't. But you would think, and it bounces back, you would think that you needed to add more flour. And in fact, when someone was making this last night, they went ahead and added all that flour because they didn't understand what they were looking for. Now here's the bread dough that doubled, and we knocked it down, and it has doubled yet again, you can see, or almost. And we could knock it down again. There we go. And shape it into those two loaves for over here. I think I made you think that you would shape this dough, and you wouldn't. It would be this dough that you would shape. So this is the kneaded dough. This is the double dough that you shape. This is the dough that has been glazed, and that's the dough that's been baked. Got it? I hope. Smoked fish. Smoked trout is wonderful, and so is smoked fish. It's delicious in salads or pâtés, or you can use it on your own. This is trout today, but you could use almost any other fish, and it calls for a 1.5 pound fish, but life is not perfect. The fish are very happy up in the Georgia mountains right now. The trout are happy, and so this guy grew to 2 pounds. So you have to make a decision. You can cut off the head. Well, of course, you know that it's very rude to serve someone a whole fish unless you serve the head, particularly if you're an Asian or South American, because they always they think that the cheek is the best part of the fish, and that if you didn't serve the fish head, then, you know, you were being rude because you ate it in the kitchen or something. So, anyway, there's that. Now, you would first, this is my friend Jeff Smith's smoker. He told me about it first, and I love it. Put some smoking chips in the bottom of your smoker, and then put the fish on the rack and cover tightly. You could also put the fish on its side like that, and that would make it look like it was swimming. And then you cover it tightly, turn on the heat, and smoke it for about 25 minutes, and this is the cover. And the fish should register about 150 to 170 degrees on a meat thermometer. You cool it then, and you wrap it well, and it'll keep refrigerated only for about 3 or 4 days. It will last that long, but you need to be careful because it needs to be kept refrigerated and will keep only a few days tightly wrapped. People think that because something's smoked that it will last forever, but it won't. Those that are sold, like if you go to Finland or Alaska or somewhere, and it's in a special packaging designed for long-time storage, that's different, and those will last 6 months, and they're almost dried out, they're smoked. So you have to plan when you're using this when it's necessary for a party. I try to use it as a special brunch treat and mix it in with eggs. That's lovely. So go ahead now. Let me show you Grandmother Kreiser's Icebox cookies. Now, this is the first time you'll ever see me using margarine. Maybe the whole time that I've been on television, 100 and some odd segments. Beat together margarine and sugar, and that's because Grandmother Kreiser really cared. So brown sugar, regular sugar, and beat it until it's brown, until it's light and fluffy, you know. It won't be real light because it's got brown sugar in it. Now you go ahead and add your eggs. And always add your eggs one at a time. I find it much easier to do this in a stand mixer, just like that bread. When it has all those things in it, you don't want to do it in a food processor, so doing it in a stand mixer is better. Plus, the stand mixer just continues to knead it, and you can do something else, which is what I did. Now, add lemon juice and vanilla. Now mix together flour, baking powder, baking soda, chopped cardamom, ground cardamom, and then I've got some chopped nuts here for you as well, and some salt here and cinnamon, salt and cinnamon. I think that's right. Now I just wanted to show you what cardamom seeds look like, and here they are. And I popped one open, and inside are these little guys that get ground up. Isn't that fun? Now, you stir these dry ingredients into the margarine. Now, be careful when you stir it in because you don't want it all to blow on your face, and it's an awful lot to stir in at one time. And you might even want to put that lid up and stir it on in. And this will make a nice stiff dough. And I'm not going to try to do that too. Let's see if it blows away. That's all right. Now you shape it into a long cylinder and refrigerate it overnight or indefinitely or freeze it. And then you slice your dough, paper thin. It's just like what you buy in the grocery store, only that you've done this yourself. An 1/8 of an inch is best, like that. And you can see how wet this dough is and why you have to refrigerate it. Imagine trying to shape that. And arrange it on a baking sheet and bake it at 375 degrees until it's light brown. It's about 13 to 15 minutes. And then you cool it on a rack. Remove them and cool them on a rack, and they are just lovely. Let me show you what happens if you bake them too long. Oop. Life is less than perfect. Now, I would still eat that, and the dog would still eat it, but a lot of people might find that brown sugar burned not quite as nice. Okay, Nicoise potato salad. This serves 4 to 6 people. Cook some small red potatoes in boiling water, and you always put new potatoes or small potatoes into boiling water. And then you drain it and you cut it into quarters. And then you cook some green beans. And by the way, you might as well do twice as many as you need to do, and then use part of it for the salad for the next night's dinner and part of it for that night's dinner. Drain it. And then your green beans, the same thing. Cook them drop them into boiling water. Cook them about 5 to 7 minutes. Then drain them and refresh them. And before or after, you can cut them into 1-inch pieces. Get some cherry tomatoes and have them. And now peel and chop some hard-cooked eggs. And these are, no, I thought they were overcooked, but they're not. They're just perfect. The way you hard-cook an egg is to bring a pot of water up to the boil, add your egg, and it should be on a spoon, and drop it into the pan, and then roll it back and forth to center the egg. Now see, this little guy didn't get centered, so if you wanted to use it for a stuffed egg, it wouldn't work out right, because you can see there's a very thin wall of the white there and a thick one here. So you roll it in the water to center it, and then just let it simmer about 13 minutes, and then take it out and put it into cold water, then back into hot water, back into cold water, and then roll and crack it. Now, toss together your potatoes, your green beans, some sliced black olives, your cherry tomatoes, and some eggs, and your chopped eggs. Let me just go ahead and chop this real fast. I would use a muesli grater. There it is. Here's some chopped. I would use a little hand muesli grater. Now, in a blender or food processor, mix yogurt or mayonnaise. It just depends on what you're going to use it for. Some Dijon mustard, some lemon juice and parsley, some drained anchovies, and some drained tuna. Now, you could also, if you wanted to, use your smoked trout in this. Would be very nice. Then season it to taste with salt and pepper. Pour this over your potatoes and your beans and toss it to coat it well, and then chill it until it's ready to serve. I just happen to have some ready for you there. This is a fabulous summer menu.
Today's menu featured another meal of wonderful pieces. A smoked trout is now easy to do at home and makes a wonderful starter for a meal of Nicoise potato salad, a refreshing summer salad, and caramelized green onions and carrots. Ray's roasted pepper onion bread and Nathalie's special recipe for grandmother Kreiser's Icebox cookies are sure to become cherished family favorites.